This is my special topics presentation for Sociology 354 by Angela Oplt, entitled Family and Medical Leave Policies in America. Family and medical leave policies in the United States need to be expanded and improved to support families and help them with the challenges they face when trying to balance their work and family lives. I argue that not only will individual employees and their families benefit from these changes, employers will benefit as well. Most people will need to utilize some form of family leave during their career, whether for their own illness, the birth of a child, or to care for a loved one who is ill. Under current federal law in the United States, the Family Medical Leave Act, FMLA, entitles eligible employees to take unpaid leave from work while having their job protected. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, as long as certain requirements are met, a worker can take time off for family or medical reasons for up to 12 weeks. As an employee, you are eligible for FMLA coverage if you work for a covered employer for at least 12 months and have worked at least 1,250 hours during that 12-month period. The 12 work weeks can be taken for the following reasons: the birth or adoption of a child, caring for a spouse, son, daughter, or parent who is ill, or if you as the employee become ill and are unable to perform your work duties. If you work for an employer in the private sector, the employer is covered if they have 50 or more employees. If you work in the public sector or for a public or private school, the employer is covered no matter how many employees they have. While this policy helps some workers, it does not help everyone. Research supports my position that national policies need to change and that the FMLA is inadequate. One such study has shown that paid leave policies in conjunction with positively supportive workplaces result in less work-family conflict. For example, Allen et al. 2013 conducted a study of married working parents of children under the age of 5 across 12 different industrialized countries to evaluate the relationship between work-family conflict and national policies. Each country was responsible for collecting data from a common questionnaire measuring work-family conflict, family supportive organization perceptions, family supportive supervision, national policy, and control variables such as age, job tenure, gender, education, and job status of spouse. The results of this study showed that when an employee works for a company and supervisor who they feel is supportive of family, there was less work-family conflict, and that there is potential benefit to having paid leave policies. Even though this study was cross-national, more research is needed to investigate other variables affecting work-family conflict. Research also suggests there are disparities in how workers who are also caregivers experience workplace support or lack thereof. Another study conducted by Leahy, Earl, and Heyman in 2012 suggests that there are differences in the burden of caregiving responsibilities, working conditions, and outcomes. Data was used from the Work, Family, and Community Nexus Survey, conducted in 2006, which included 4,200 U.S. adults aged 18 to 69. Of these respondents, just over 2,500 were employed at least part-time. An intersectional examination, including gender, ethnicity, immigration status, and education level, looked at different variables such as working conditions, job outcomes, and quality of life. This study found that male caregivers were more likely to have good working conditions than female workers. Good working conditions meant things like being able to change their work schedule, make personal phone calls at work, or having access to paid time off. The study found that caregivers with less education are less likely to have the availability of paid leave. Lastly, first-generation immigrants faced less supportive and accommodating work environments. Policies that require employers to offer paid leave regardless of gender have resulted in an increase of fathers taking leave and a reduction in the gender disparity of infant care. For example, California is the first state in our country to provide a paid leave program available to fathers, the California Paid Leave, CAPFL. This program offers up to 6 weeks of paid leave at a 55% wage replacement rate for either men or women. A study conducted by Bartel et al. 2017 analyzed if there was an increase in leave taking among fathers after the law was implemented. The study used data from the 2000 census and the 2000 to 2013 waves of the ACS, which is a national survey providing information about experiences in the labor market, from which the researchers pulled responses by fathers aged 16 to 54 who were employed at the time of the survey. Bartel et al. Found that there was a significant increase in leave taking by both parents as well as by the father only as a result of the CAPFL program. This finding is important because fathers spending more time taking care of their children promotes gender equality. Although leave taking among fathers was shown to increase, the amount of time taken by fathers is still lower than by mothers. The lack of job protection and the low level of wage replacement can be factors in the use of this program. Now let's turn to how family leave issues are approached by the media. In a New York Times article by Caitlin Collins in 2019, she discusses the different ways working mothers address family leave. Collins interviewed women in the U.S. and compared their answers to mothers in Sweden, Germany, and Italy. She argues that women in the U.S. struggle to piecemeal resources in order to be able to take time off after the birth of a child, and that they blame themselves for not being able to spend enough time with their children. In other countries that have paid leave family programs, the mothers often feel it is the government's responsibility to provide programs to assist them. Collins states that overall, we have a social responsibility to solve the crisis of family leave in America. In another article from the New York Times, author Jessica Gross, in 2019, discusses post-maternity leave struggles of mothers in the U.S. who lack flexible schedules and time off to care for growing kids. She argues that the struggles don't end after the initial maternity leave is taken, and that companies are responsible for providing more flexibility to all workers, not just mothers, but fathers and other caregivers. There needs to be a policy that allows people to take time off regardless of the reason, because women are considered less dedicated employees when they are the ones taking time off. Her moral message is that being able to show up for your children is extremely important to them, as well as to you, and that employers should care about this too. In general, the media reports I found support the research findings. The articles from the New York Times support the idea that better family leave policies are necessary. The articles both cited research statistics, and even though they didn't present the same information as the academic studies, generally they argued the same points. The research and media most likely agree because work-life balance is a pervasive issue. The majority of workers do not have paid leave benefits, nor do they have the means to support themselves without an income. Many families are affected by the lack of a comprehensive federal program that would provide the continuation of pay during their time of need. Can unpaid leave be seen as a benefit to those who can't afford to take time off of work without pay? Most people will need to utilize medical or family leave for themselves or a family member at some point in their working lives, and employees who are given the support they need during a health crisis or after the birth of a child will be more productive and loyal employees. This in turn benefits the employer. Researchers have some suggestions for change. Leahy et al. Suggest creating new policies. They argue that the U.S. relies too much on employers to voluntarily provide paid time off. Requiring employers to provide a minimum amount of paid time off might help take the burden off of the caregiver and allow them to keep their jobs. Creating policies that encourage employers to allow more flexibility with work schedules could also help. Other suggestions include providing a long-term care insurance plan that would provide compensation for the caregiver and/or offering a tax benefit for people who have to care for a disabled or elderly family member. Bartel et al. Suggest that increasing wage replacement and protection for jobs will result in more parents, and fathers in particular, taking leave. Fathers spending more time with their children promotes gender equality in childcare. Allen et al. Recommended providing paid sick time to help employees and their family members, thereby reducing work-family conflict. In conclusion, I argue that family and medical leave in the U.S. needs to be improved and updated to be more helpful to the families that are facing the challenges of work-life balance. Thank you.